Winning Blueprint presents.
In the lab room, Cincinnati Bengals.
Who they? Who they think gonna beat them Cincinnati Bengals? I don't know. Maybe the Cleveland Browns, the Houston Texans, Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, Dallas Cowboys. Oh, okay. You get where I'm going with this. The Cincinnati Bengals are a better football team, but they still aren't the who they Bengals, because a lot of teams have beaten the Cincinnati Bengals. And the thing that's the most disappointing about the Cincinnati Bengals is that there's some talent on this team. A lot of it. I feel like of all the teams in the National Football League, the Cincinnati Bengals might have had one of the most impressive drafts of any team in the National Football League. I mean, I was very impressed with what they were able to acquire in the draft. And I think they have a lot of young talent. But I don't know if it's all being utilized correctly. And look, some guys come along at a slower pace. Some guys just come in the league and they get it right away. I understand that. But at the end of the day, this Bengals team needs to take that next step. They're really running in place right now. They're stuck in neutral. They need to take that next step. And several things need to happen for that next step to be taken. Now, I must say, I am very impressed with the maturation of this team, because I thought that the Cincinnati Bengals were a flash in the pan team. And what I mean by that is, in my lab report for this team at the beginning of the season, I had the Cincinnati Bengals as a 6-10 football team, because I thought that last year was a fluke. I thought last year they snuck up on teams. A.J. Green and Andy Dalton and that combination really snuck up on the league. And we knew A.J. Green had the potential, had the talent to be one of the better receivers in the National Football League. We knew that coming out of Georgia. But we weren't sure about Andy Dalton out of TCU, him being a second-round draft choice. We weren't sure if he was the real deal or not. We weren't sure if this Bengals team was good enough offensively to get it done. Defensively, were they going to be able to stand up to the good teams in the league and find a way to win games? I just didn't think the Bengals would be good enough to do that again, because now we know who Andy Dalton is. Now we know who A.J. Green is. We know what these guys are capable of. We know that Jermaine Gresham is a young, budding star at the tight end position. We know that they have some weapons offensively. We know that this defense can get after you with guys like Geno Atkins, Michael Johnson. We know that this defense can be very dominant at times. So I didn't think they were going to sneak up on teams. I thought teams were going to prepare for the Cincinnati Bengals better in 2012. I was wrong. The Bengals are just a good, solid football team. And when they play good football, they're tough to beat, as displayed by their 10-6 mark in the 2012 season and their second consecutive postseason berth. So they are a legit team now. Now you have to respect the Cincinnati Bengals and what they bring to the table. 1's a fluke. 2 is a trend. 3, then you are officially a triple P. And that's what they're looking to do, establish themselves as a triple P, a perennial playoff participant, is what the Bengals are looking to become in the upcoming season. So there's a lot of things that they need to address in order to ensure that this does occur. Let's start with the recap of the 2012 season. How did we get to where we are with this Cincinnati Bengals team? Now keep in mind, the rest of the teams on these lab follow-ups all made the postseason. And all of them, A-L-L, all of them won at least 10 games or more. So the Bengals are the first of these teams to be eliminated, and so we start with the Cincinnati Bengals. They are your 21st pick in the NFL draft coming up this spring. So, looking at this season was very strange for the Cincinnati Bengals. They started the season off hot, 3-1, after being humiliated on Monday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens to open up the season. They were really trounced, like 44-13, something of that nature. It was an ugly football game. They were blown out. They won 3 in a row. They beat Cleveland. They beat Washington. They won some games. And they went 3-1 to start the season. And they looked like a team that was going to compete in the AFC North for a potential shot at winning that crown. Now, you knew they were a long way away because of what happened in Week 1 against Baltimore. You knew they were going to have to go through the Steelers. They're going to have to go through the Ravens. But if they continue to win games, they'll be in the discussion at the end of the season. That was the thought process after 4 games, after that first quarter of the season. But after that hot start, the Bengals took a little bit of a tumble. They came crashing back down to earth. After that first quarter start of 3-1, they dropped all 4 of the games in the second quarter of the season. They lost 4 straight. And at the middle point of the season, they found themselves staring at a 3-5 mark. And you're in a danger zone at that point. Once you start getting 2 games under 500 with 8 to go, you're in sort of the danger zone. You're in no man's land because now there's not a lot of margin for error. You drop to 3-6, and you can all but forget about it. And there's not many teams that climb themselves out of a 3-6 hole. There's not many Washington Redskins teams that can run off 7 straight. You don't want to put yourself in that kind of hole because every game is a must-win game at that point. But the Bengals did not panic. They persevered, and much like their head coach Marvin Lewis, who many thought would have been fired years ago, he persevered, he hung in there, and now he's coaching really well in Cincinnati. This team persevered, they hung in there, and they won 7 out of 8 to finish up the season. Really, they should have won 8 straight. They should have beat the Dallas Cowboys. Their one lone loss in the second half of the season came at home to the Dallas Cowboys in a game that they thoroughly dominated, but just could not put the Dallas Cowboys away. And so they lost that game, but they won 7 out of 8 to finish up the season and get to 10-6 and make the postseason. But if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, this season had to be unfulfilling. You do all of those things, you make it back to the postseason, and really, I had high hopes for this team. I picked them to win in Wild Card Weekend against a reeling Houston Texans team. I thought the Texans limped into the postseason. They lost their final game of the season. They lost 3 out of 4 going into the postseason, did the Houston Texans. I thought the Bengals were playing really hot football. They were winners of 3 straight to finish up the season. I thought they had all the momentum. They were playing better football. And then they went into Houston and absolutely laid an egg. Andy Dalton was not sharp. They did not execute well on offense. This defense got little to no pressure on Matt Schaub. They did not control the line of scrimmage and stop the run game. They allowed Arian Foster to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. And they lost the football game. And the sad part was they only lost by 6. You make 1 or 2 plays here, you win the game. But they couldn't even do that. And so that left you wanting more if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan. Because you lose the game 19-13. And Andy Dalton misses a wide open A.J. Green streaking up the field for a touchdown at the end of the football game. He hits him. The Bengals probably win the football game. Instead, he misses him. And that's a throw that if you want to take the next step, you got to make. You got to make. And I feel like this Cincinnati Bengals team will only go as far as Andy Dalton will take them. And really, that's where it starts for the Cincinnati Bengals. You want to take that next step? It starts with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton has to step to the forefront and take over as a leader of this team and start making more plays. His numbers were fine. His numbers were phenomenal. Second year in the league, 27 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, over 3,600 yards passing. They're fine. I have absolutely no qualms with those numbers. Those numbers get it done every single year. I'll take those numbers from a guy in the league every single year. Whether you're a 10-year vet, 7 years, 3 years of service, I'll take those numbers. Those are solid numbers. I'd like to see those interceptions come down. Of course, you know me. I don't want more than 15 interceptions. Once you get more than 15, you're doing something wrong. But again, he's second year in the league. I'll take that. Those numbers will continue to drop. So, solid season. But again, it's not how many touchdown passes you throw. It's not, yeah, it is the amount of interceptions you throw. I won't say that. I won't go that far, but it's when you throw those touchdown passes. It's when you throw those interceptions. And I thought that Andy Dalton, at times in the regular season and into the postseason, didn't play his best football. Didn't play well enough for his team to have an opportunity to win. And if this team is going to take the next step, Andy Dalton is going to have to take the next step. And if he's able to do that, the Bengals can be a very dangerous football team. Another question you have to ask yourself, if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, who's going to be Robin in our offense? Who's going to be the Robin to our Batman? We know A.J. Green is the man on this team. A.J. Green, without a doubt, to me, is a top 5 receiver in this league. I love A.J. Green. And the skill sets that he possesses are the kind that are like fine wine. They age so well. A.J. Green, even when he can't run a 4.40 anymore, will still catch 87 balls for, 1,122 yards and 7 touchdowns because he's so fluid. He's so polished. His hands are so great. He runs such good, crisp routes that even when the speed isn't there, he'll still get open. He'll still create separation because he's so fine-tuned. I love A.J. Green. He's such a professional. I love him. And you need a number 2, though. That's what the Bengals need. And you drafted a slew of receivers last year. I don't know if any of them fill that number 2 void. Mohamed Sanu started to come on before he got injured. I love Mohamed Sanu. I loved him out of Rutgers. But I don't know if he's a number 2 or not. He might be. You have to wait and see. Do you have another season to wait and see? Because in the playoffs, it was apparent. First of all, it took you way too long to find A.J. Green. A.J. Green didn't even have a target until the second half. That should never happen. Every quarter, if I'm the coordinator, if I'm Jay Gruden, every quarter, at least one time, if nothing else, if at least one time, I'm going to call it heat check. What is A.J. doing? It's going to be called a green check. And that's when you just look over to A.J., see if he's got one-on-one coverage, and throw it up. Why not? He's one of the best in the game. Why not? That should be mandatory every quarter. And if I'm a team, you got to guess when is that coming. Because I wouldn't be shy about letting teams know he's getting the football. Have Andy just look over, make eye contact, do something, whatever you want him to have to do, and let him know, hey, forget about the play we just called in the huddle. Run a fly, run a 9 route, and I'm going to chuck it up to you. See what you can do. For him to go a whole half without being targeted makes absolutely no sense. Baffles me. But anyway, you need a number 2 across from him. It was apparent in the playoffs. When A.J. Green wasn't getting it done in the first half, you couldn't turn to anyone else. Your offense was so stagnant, it wasn't even funny. If it were not for Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis having success running the football, you would have done nothing on offense in the first half of that playoff game. God forbid you don't get a pick 6 from your defense. You don't have anything to show for your first half efforts. So you really need a number 2 receiver. And I don't know if that guy is going to be Marvin Jones. I don't know if that guy is going to be Mohamed Sanu. I don't know if it's going to be any of them. All I know is that you need a number 2 receiver. I like all of the stuff. I told you, I was a big fan of what you did in the draft last season. All of your stuff that you got last season was good for this franchise. Young, talented guys. So, one of them could be the answer. If not, you need to find a number 2, though. I think that's a definite in the offseason. Figure that out. Come up with a plan of action. If Mohamed Sanu or Marvin Jones is that guy, fine. I'm cool with that. But if that guy isn't on the roster, find him. Because you can't continue to put that much pressure on A.J. Green. teams are going to start bracketing A.J. Green because they know that's all you have. 97 catches, over 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns. Teams are going to start trying to make a concerted effort to take A.J. Green away if they know you don't have anything on the other side of the field. And it's going to become frustrating. It's going to become increasingly harder for you to get him the football. And he needs to shine for this team to be productive. Another gripe that I had with the Cincinnati Bengals in the 2012 season was the usage of Andrew Hawkins. Look, my first revelation of 2012 was Andrew Hawkins. After watching the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and keep in mind, I'm a Redskins fan, and we played Cincinnati in week 3, and he lit us up. But I had been watching Andrew Hawkins before then. Again, I watch every game. And the Ravens game, even though you lost, you can't miss speed and athleticism. You don't miss that. That jumps off the page. And even in the defeat against the Ravens, I saw that this guy had something. There was something extra here. This was a weapon, a secret weapon that I felt like the Cincinnati Bengals were keeping a little bit too secretive. Let the league know that you have a weapon, and his name is Andrew Hawkins. And at the beginning of the season, I thought that the Bengals were about to unleash him on the league. And after the first 4 weeks of the season, they were doing just that. But after that, I just felt like his numbers tailed off, his production tailed off, and I don't know if it was him to blame, the coaching staff. Look, when you got a guy like Andrew Hawkins, who is explosive, shifty, quick, and fast, all rolled into one tight package, get him the football as much as you humanly possibly can. After A.J. Green, no one should touch the ball more on your team than Andrew Hawkins. A.J. Green gets the most footballs in his direction. That's hands down, not for discussion. After A.J. Green, Andrew Hawkins, for me, will be touching the football more than anyone else. And that goes for Jermaine Gresham and anyone else. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. Of course, he's a running back. He's going to tote the rock more so than anybody catching the football. But anyone catching the ball, wise, Andrew Hawkins will be catching a lot of passes. He'll be running it out of the backfield. We'll be inventing ways for him to touch the ball. Pitches out of the backfield, direct snaps, screens, wide receiver screens, screens out of the backfield, slants, hitches, you name it. Any way that's creative for him to touch the football, he'd be touching it. And I didn't think that the Bengals did enough to make sure that he was the absolute weapon that he could have been in 2012. 4 touchdowns is not nearly enough. I shouldn't be able to recollect most of his touchdowns, and I can't. He scored 1 against the Giants. He scored 1 against the Redskins. He scored, I believe, 2 against Cleveland at the beginning of the season in the second week of the season, and that was it. I don't know if he scored another touchdown in any other game this season. I could be wrong, but the fact that I can remember his touchdowns off the top of my head speaks volumes to the fact that he's not getting the ball nearly enough. This guy should be an absolute matchup nightmare, a mismatch for every team, no matter the position. No linebacker is fast enough. No safety is athletic enough. No corner wants to have to keep up with that kind of shiftiness. He's a mismatch on the field. He should be utilized. He should be a threat to take it the distance every time. And the Cincinnati Bengals should be getting him the football as much as they can. And they didn't. And so in 2013, that needs to be an initiative that's pushed across. Hey, we're going to get Andrew at least 7 touches every game. That should be the goal. Going into every game, Andrew needs to touch it at minimum 7 times. And really, I would like to see him touch it at least 11 times a game. If he gets 4 on the ground and 5 or 6 more in the air, that's fine with me. He just needs to touch it at least 7 to 11 times a game. Minimum. The guy is an absolute 100% unequivocal mismatch in the National Football League. There's none like him. Every team would fight, would beat up, would do whatever they could to get a Andrew Hawkins on their roster. Do you know how many teams are looking for Andrew Hawkins as we speak? You have one and you're not using him to his full maximum potential. You got to use. Look, if I were the Bengals, Andrew Hawkins would have to come to me and ask me to stop giving him the football. That's how much I would use him. He'd have to come to me and say, hey, coach, man, I was just wondering if instead of me getting the ball 15 times a game, you could, like, kind of water it down to, like, maybe 9 or 10 or 8. I'm just saying, man, I am 5'7". I am 160 pounds soaking wet. You know, I am a guy that can't take but so much punishment, man. I'd love it if you take a little bit off my workload, which you will never hear an NFL player say. So, unless he would come to me and say that, and I know he's 5'7", he's very diminutive. I know. I get it. You don't want to put too much on him. You don't want him to get hurt. You don't want to overuse him. But, man, I swear, I might run him into the ground because the guy is so dynamic. In an offense that's missing more dynamic pieces, you have a very unimaginative backfield. I mean, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis isn't fast. He isn't athletic. You don't have another back that's a change of pace. There is not another back in your backfield that is a home run threat. So your backfield is very bland. So in a run game that could use a spark, a punch, a shot in the arm, what are you doing not giving Andrew Hawkins the ball more? Anyway, that's an adjustment that needs to be made for 2013. Get Andrew Hawkins the football more. As for this defense, they were ranked 8th in scoring defense a season ago. They only gave up 20 points per game. And really, this was the backbone of this team. Offensively, the Cincinnati Bengals were sporadic. One week, you'd get 30 out of them. The next week, you get 37. And then the next week, you'd get 13. Or you'd get 16. Or you'd get 17. And so they were up and down offensively. But the one thing that really remained a constant all year long was the defense. The defense was really solid. After that outburst against Baltimore in the beginning of the season where Baltimore put up 44 on this team, who just looked like they were ill-prepared, frankly. They really didn't give up a boatload of points in the season. I mean, this team really hunkered down and locked teams down and locked them up defensively. I thought this secondary really overachieved. I was impressed. We know what Leon Hall is. He's a young, physical, gifted corner. Coming off of the injury, though, I didn't know what to expect from Leon Hall. He looked good this season. But they got a lot of veterans on this roster that really performed well. Nate Clements played well this season. I was so surprised with Terrence Newman. I thought he was done. After he left Dallas, I said, man, Terrence Newman needs to hang it up. He's finished. He played inspired football in 2012. You got a lot out of Terrence Newman. Pac-Man Jones is still playing some solid football. Excuse me, Adam Jones is still playing some really good football. And he gave you some stuff on special teams in the punt return game. So you got a lot out of this defense. But really where your bread was buttered in 2012 on defense was with your front four. And really this defense as a whole. But in your front four, you got pressure on the quarterback. You got pressure on the quarterback. You disrupted the timing of offenses. You started to get in the backfield and play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And mainly, your anchor on that defensive line is Geno Atkins. He's an all-pro in this league. And many people don't know about Geno Atkins. He's one of the best defensive players in the National Football League. Was very disappointed with his play in the playoffs. I was expecting Geno to really show up and show out on that stage. He was finally getting some attention. Everyone's watching. It's the playoffs. And Geno Atkins, for the most part, didn't do anything in that game. This is a guy that had 12.5 sacks during the regular season. When do you get 12.5 sacks from the defensive tackle position in a 4-3 defense? It's rare. But he was lighting up opposing offensive linemen and opposing offensive lines all across the National Football League, getting in the backfield, knifing in, making tackles for loss, sacking quarterbacks. He was doing it all. And this defense put together 51 sacks as a unit. In the top 3 in the National Football League. I mean, that right there is efficiency from your line. It doesn't get much better than that. And when you can get sacks on the opposing quarterback, changes the whole dynamic of what you can do defensively. And you're not going to give up a lot of points when you're sacking the quarterback, because quarterbacks and teams will find themselves in 3rd and long, because if they decide to pass on 1st or 2nd down and you get to the quarterback, it makes it 3rd and long. Or in 3rd and long or 3rd and manageable, you get to the quarterback, get a sack, you get the team off the field. Now you're giving your offense an opportunity to score. And this defense did a lot of that. And with sacks come turnovers. They got pressure. You force turnovers. This team was very good on defense. And again, Marvin Lewis is a huge part of that, because Marvin Lewis is a defensive-minded coach. And you can say what you want about Marvin Lewis. He always has his defense ready to play. You're going to get a physical defense that's in your face, that's going to play hard. And that's what the Cincinnati Bengals team did in 2012. And so they got it done. They were good enough defensively, good enough offensively to make it to the postseason, and that's why they did. They won 10 games, but at the end of the day, they need more. So let's talk about what this Cincinnati Bengals team needs to do in the offseason to improve. Now, looking at this team from the outside looking in, I already told you, you need a number 2 receiver. Now, whether that guy's already on the roster or not remains to be seen. He could be. He might be. I'm not sure if he is or not. If he isn't, go and address that immediately. If he is, then you can start turning your attention to other areas where you need help. And I feel like one of those areas is cornerback. Even though your secondary played very well in 2012, you could use another safety opposite Reggie Nelson. You could use 1 or 2 more corners, because I just told you that your cornerback position is very veteran-laden. And so you don't want to wake up one morning and realize that your secondary is old. You don't want to get old overnight. You don't want to have it be week 5 of the 2013 regular season and wake up and realize, man, our secondary is old, and have to deal with that for the rest of the season. Don't let what happened in 2012 dictate what happens in 2013. Don't allow them to fool you into thinking that you're set at the cornerback position. Terrence Newman is up there in age. Adam Jones is up there in age. Nate Clements is up there in age. You don't want to go into the next season thinking that it's okay. Don't allow what happened in 2012 to shape what happens in 2013. This defense was really good. Your secondary was really good. But you don't need to allow this defense to get old overnight. Infuse some young talent. Get some young corners. Get a young safety. You could use that infusion of youth out there in the secondary. You also need some speed at the running back position. You need it. And Benjarvis Green-Ellis went over 1,000 yards. Solid season for him. Thought you could have ran the ball a little bit more. But it's nor here nor there. At the end of the day, you need more speed in your backfield. Your backfield is really regular right now. In your backfield, though, between Benjarvis Green-Ellis, the oft-injured Bernard Scott, Brian Leonard, Dan Herron, and Cedric Pierman, there's not a lot of flash back there. Not a lot of game-breaking speed. And so that's why I couldn't understand why Andrew Hawkins wasn't being utilized in the backfield more, because of what he could bring to your backfield. But I said all of that to say this. You need a true game-breaking running back. Not a guy that's going to come in and start. You don't have to devote a high draft choice if you don't want to, but a guy that has some speed to burn, that can be an asset in your backfield. You need to have a change of pace back in that backfield. We know Benjarvis Green-Ellis can get you the tough yards, can sniff the end zone, can get in, can get all the tough yards and do all the things between the tackles. Someone that can get outside the tackles, however, other than Andrew Hawkins. You need that running back. And I think those are the areas of need, whether it be draft or free agency, that you need to address. With your 21st selection in the draft, I'd be shocked if that's not a corner or if that's not a running back. Someone that you can plug in right now and get something out of. And if you want to go the number 2 receiver route, that'd be the time to do it. That would be the time to do it. But I don't know what the Bengals are going to look for. Hey, if there's a safety there, take him. Take him. You don't know what you're going to lose in free agency. And so all those things bear mentioning. And you need to keep an eye on that, because if you lose some players of worth in free agency, you might have to replace them in the draft. So your needs now might not be your needs come draft time. Things change. So we'll see. We will see, but that's going to do it for the Cincinnati Bengals. So thank you for joining me here on the Lab Follow-Up. Got a lot done talking Cincinnati Bengals football. Tomorrow, join me on this very program as we'll be talking about the team that was supposed to select 22nd, but traded that pick away, the Washington Redskins. We'll be talking Washington Redskins football here on the Lab Follow-Up tomorrow. A lot to get to there. So join me tomorrow here on the Lab Follow-Up as we talk Washington Redskins football. I thank you for joining me here on the Lab Follow-Up Cincinnati Bengals edition. See you tomorrow.
Cincinnati Bengals.